Welcome to your weekend review here on WINN FM 98.9 for the period September 15th through 20th. Making the news last week,
People's Labour Party accuses government of St. Kitts and Nevis of engaging in secret land deals, refers to the SSD bill as bad.
16 St. Kitts Nevis citizens receive national honours.
Julie Charles says the domestic violence remains underreported, adding some men are suffering in silence. The daughter of Nevis's first premier and national hero reminds St. Kitts Nevis citizens of her father's quest for secession. The Nevis Reformation Party hosts a successful protest and rally in Charlestown.
Nevis Premier tackles concerns over exogenous shocks on new special sustainability zone move. Now the details.
The People's Labour Party gave a stinging lash to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, accusing its leadership of engaging in secret land deals and selling out the birthright of the people. According to a statement from the PLP camp, quote, "This Jew-led Labour government has abandoned the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Instead of empowering our farmers, small businesses and young families, they are cutting secret deals and selling out our birthright. Our people are left with high costs of living, fewer opportunities, and no real stake in the land of their ancestors. We cannot and will not accept this," unquote. Dr. Timothy Harris, People's Labour Party's leader, weighing on the ongoing controversy over the special sustainability zone and Nevis's southeast lands, accusing the government of betraying the very foundation on which the nation was built.
This was a challenge Batch faced, Batch had faced a situation in our country where all the estates were up for grabs. People had begun to sell lands. Jordans over at Borio had sold land, for example, to the people down at the Monkey Farm.
Yes.
People were beginning to sell piece of what they call their private turf, and better recognize that the country would not be able to develop properly if we allowed these people to just profiteer. And he went to the parliament. In fact, he had identified 3 critical things, I think, for the 1975 election. One was that we will go into independence. The second one was that we will acquire the sugar estate. Had he not acquired the sugar estate, we would have never get a piece of land for ourselves. That is what government has to do. Protect the interests of the majority of people, especially those who are vulnerable. That is how we begin to get land. That is how proper housing development began to take place. That is one of the reasons too.
Dr. Harris recalled his tenure in office, highlighting that during his time at the helm, his government worked to reclaim land that had been lost under a land for debt swap agreement made by the Douglas administration. He expressed that the buyback was a critical step to ensure that the people retained control over their lands.
When I came to office, I spent $408 million to buy back land from the National Bank, which Douglas had yielded on the so-called land for debt swap. That is why we were able to get a community center in Atlas, because we took back the land from the bank, paid it. That is why we were able to start housing development at Atlas, because we paid for the land. That is why we were able to have and Daniel become interested in housing and other development at Brighton, because Harris government buy back the land. That is why we were able to get new projects over in constituency number 4, because Dr. Harris government took back the land. And we did all of this on behalf of the people. And when we exited government, having spent $408 million, that is how we get lands in Keon, All the court is going to live, we bought back that land. That is what happened. That is where the transformation and development of the country is taking place now. Because we had the vision. And we understand, without land, you're at risk.
Big time.
Every citizen has a right to a piece of the rock. Every citizen. And the nationalization of the land and the subsequent payment for the land allow us to do so.
Harris suggests that the government's actions with the Special Sustainability Zone are a threat to the hard-fought gains of the country.
These things that they're now attempting with sustainable zone is to take us backwards. Where a few people come in, they figure they have money, and we don't know money and we don't know value.
No, they don't know value.
So we will sell them, they will buy up, and then they lock us out.
The People's Labour Party leader also accused the Prime Minister Drew of attempting to distance himself from the controversial Special Sustainability Zone Authorization Bill 2025, even though it was tabled in his name in Parliament. Speaking to an audience on National Heroes Day, September 16, 2025, Harris opined that the Prime Minister is trying to evade backlash as public resistance to the proposed legislation grows.
Well, my own view is that Dr. Drew tells so much lies that he don't know when to tell the truth. He's in a habit, really, of telling lies. And really, it's two lies, and this lie ain't makes sense. Because if it is that he says he don't want getting a Nevis business, why he didn't tell Mark that? Why you brought the law to the federal parliament if it is Nevis business? If section 37, as he said that is a Nevis matter, well, leave it to the Nevis administration and its assembly there to deal with that particular land matter. You see, he mess now hit the fan, and he recognized there's a problem. The bill was brought by Dr. Douglas, not Dr. Douglas, sorry, Dr. Drew. It was supported by Dr. Douglas, and it was supported by Jeffrey. The man who seconded the bill was Mark Brantley. As soon as you finish moving the bill, so he didn't want to be in it, but he's moving it. It is in his name. You see the calamity? You see the foolishness he's telling sensible people? It is Nevis matter. But how you bring it down here in a sentence at the federal level of the parliament? You move it. Mark seconded it. Eric spoke on it. And Alexis spoke on it. And on the other side, it was you, and it was Douglas, and it was Hanley who spoke on it. Most of the other government members, really, they had God and the usual free-for-all to draw your heads around the country. So they won't be. But that is how the bill got passed. The government did not have 7 members present to give itself a quorum. So they called the meeting knowing that Mark will come down because Mark wants the bill. But Mark was doing a smartness. Let it look like it is a federal matter. It's they dealing with. So when the mess come out now, you could say, well, we ain't got nothing to do with it. But alas, the truth has come out. They have outsmarted themselves. And that is a bad bill. It's a bad bill.
The controversy surrounding the Special Sustainability Zone bill continues to escalate, with some predicting that it will remain a major flashpoint in the lead-up to the next general election. Public demonstrations are expected to intensify, building upon the Nevis Reformation Party's public protest and rally on September 12.
The Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis celebrated its 42nd anniversary of independence under the theme Perpetual Progress, A Sustainable Future in View, Independence 42 on September 19, 2025. Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew, in a national address, encouraged citizens of the Federation to continue on the path of perpetual progress.
Let our refrain be simple and strong. We are one federation, traveling the road of perpetual progress. We know where we have come from. We know where we are going, and together we will get there. We also honor those who carried us here, the farmers who tilled the soil, the teachers who inspired, the nurses who cared, the builders who built, the cultural icons who lifted our spirits. To secure a sustainable future, we must emulate their spirit of sacrifice and vision. Sustainability demands that we protect our land and waters, invest in renewable energy, nurture our people through healthcare and education, and ensure that opportunities reach every citizen. It is heroic work, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary and because it requires prioritizing the long-term good of the nation. This is why each year we take this opportunity to honor not only the heroes of history, but the heroes among us, men and women whose lives exemplify service, courage, and devotion to our country. They are proof that heroism is alive in our time and that the spirit of country above self endures.
The Prime Minister also named the 16 individuals who received the Medal of Honor as part of the 42nd anniversary of independence celebrations. These men and women were honored for their dedicated and loyal service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Awarded for outstanding and meritorious service to the nation, the Medal of Honor was bestowed upon.
This year, on behalf of the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis, I am proud to announce the awardees of our national honors. Awarded for long and meritorious service or for loyal and devoted service to the nation, the Companion of the Star of Merit is bestowed upon Pastor Leroy Benjamin Sr., Religion and Spiritual Leadership; Mr. Goldwyn O. Keynes, Public and Civic Service; Dr. Jerome Thomas, Agriculture; Mrs. Lydia Thompson Claxton, Sports; Mr. Williams V.A. Hodge, Education and Academia; Miss Lozine Williams, Education and Academia; Mrs. Dorothy Clark, Education and Academia; Mr. Franklin Dorset, Law and Justice and Sports. Awarded for outstanding and meritorious service to the nation, the Medal of Honor is bestowed upon Mr. Meredith Charles, Security and Defense; Miss Joya Walters, Health and Medicine; Pastor Clive Saunders, Community Service and Religion; Mr. Trevor Marty Huggins, Sports; Mrs. Etsu Bracha Keynes, Community Service; Mr. Washington Jeffries, Business and Entrepreneurship; Mr. Lennox Warner, Business and Entrepreneurship; Mr. Stedroy Douglas, Sports and Community Service. These distinguished citizens have, through their work and example, lifted our Federation higher, whether in education, healthcare, law enforcement, culture, entrepreneurship, sports, or community service.
Dr. Drew reminded the people that heroes are not only to be honored posthumously, but also in the everyday heroes who positively influence their environment.
They remind us that heroism is not confined to statues or history, but lives and breathes among us every day. So my fellow citizens and residents, as we walk together on this day, let us vow to keep building, keep striving, keep believing.
Woman who has dedicated several years to supporting victims of domestic violence has been recognized as the runner-up unsung hero for St. Kitts and Nevis. Miss Julie Charles, a female advocate from St. Peter's, St. Kitts, spent years assisting women who face abuse. Her recognition comes as domestic violence continues to be a deeply rooted issue in society. In an interview following the CIBC First Caribbean Bank Unsung Hero ceremony in St. Kitts on September 11, 2025, she expressed a concern that domestic violence cases remain significantly underreported. She noted that many victims suffer in silence due to fear.
It has gone underreported, and lots of it has to do with fear. A lot of persons are afraid.
According to Charles, besides fear, some people lack knowledge about the support systems available to them. So through her work, she does counseling and provides victims with vital information on what actions they can take, including reporting to the police. Her dedication has made her a trusted figure among many women and families in the community who are trying to escape violent situations.
I've been helping young women and teenage girls for over 15 years. And most recently, about 3 to 4 years ago, I decided to focus on domestic violence victims. What happens a lot of the times, victims are unable or do not know how to access the social services that are available. They don't know where to start. They don't know whether to go to gender affairs, the police, the hospital. And there are a couple of lawyers that do pro bono work when it comes to domestic violence. Sometimes they call me Sometimes gender affairs call me. Sometimes the family members call me. Either which way, I end up in the middle. But it's a good middle because I'm able to come in, speak to the victim, get her to a comfortable place where she's found her courage to go to the police station and make a report. I do follow-ups with them to ensure that they're going well, they're speaking to their lawyers, they do what they have to do. And I must say, thus far, I've seen quite an improvement. I've seen some persons just come out and just flourish. I've seen some persons grow. I've seen some persons advance. So for me, the work is my passion.
While her work has primarily focused on women, Charles highlighted that men are also affected by domestic violence, but face challenges when it comes to reporting abuse.
The males are afraid to report because when they report, the authorities laugh. And they say, boy, what are you doing here? Go back home, etc. Not thinking for 1 second that they may have been raised right, and that they were told or they were taught not to hit women. And so out of respect for their upbringing, they would say, I'm not going to hit you. But at the same time, domestic violence isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's financial, it goes across the gamut.
The advocate noted that the COVID-19 pandemic caused a significant spike in domestic violence incidents, as lockdowns and financial stress created more volatile home environments.
For some reason, there was an explosion during the COVID season, and that was because everybody was cooped up at home. If you were a victim of domestic violence, you could escape to your family house, you could escape to your friend's house, but COVID, you couldn't escape and go anywhere. Additionally, persons would have been dealing with the additional stress of finances. Some people weren't working, some people thought they should get drunk. I mean, it really exploded. But the beauty about that is that even though it exploded, it also increased the amount of reporting that happened.
Meanwhile, Charles highlighted the existence of a local nonprofit housing facility, Garden of Rebirth, dedicated to providing temporary shelter for victims and their children. She said it is important that the private sector chimes in and supports the initiative.
There is a entity called Garden of Rebirth, which really should be, it's a private sector, initiative, it's a non-profit organization that hopes to house persons who are suffering from domestic violence. They're still doing a lot of work. I am hoping that the private sector can get on board in assisting them in doing so. It's very, very difficult. It's a very difficult way to navigate because I've always said to my the clients, I always say to them, listen, you can't just jump. You have to take your time, you have to plan this, you have to know what's happening. What are you going to do with your children? Where are they going to go to school? What are you going to do? What is your next foot or your next step forward?
Charles encouraged the community to unite against domestic violence, sharing that everyone has a role to play in ending abuse. She urged individuals to listen, support, and stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. The daughter of Nevis's first premier and a celebrated national hero reminded the people of St. Kitts and Nevis of her late father's dream of full independence for Nevis through secession. Speaking at a cultural event honoring her father's legacy and that of the 4 other national heroes of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodges said, while the island has made progress over the years, there is still much work to be done to achieve true self-determination, which was the wish of her late father, the Right Excellent Sir Dr. Simeon Daniel. She recalled that her father, who was a founding member of the Nevis Reformation Party, had long championed the idea of Nevis standing on its own. According to her, his vision was for Nevis to govern itself without external interference and to build an economy that is self-sustaining and resilient.
My father would have, as Washington Archibald would have said, blinked for a moment, and his quest for secession was put on the back burners. He would tell you that he never gave up the quest for secession, but he understood what it means to put country above self. And he did what he thought was in the best interests of the country when he joined the coalition with the PAM party back in 1980. By 1983, our country became independent, but he still felt, and I know that he died with a heavy heart, knowing that Nevis never did realize its full potential to be able to control its own destiny. I don't think that I need to make a clarification on his behalf, because while he would have started with the quest for secession, he ended up wanting Nevis to be able to determine its own destiny, to minimize reliance on external sources. External sources, even if within the same country and in St. Kitts. And so for him, there is still work to be done in order for us to fulfill that dream for him so that Nevis can be self-reliant and determine its own destiny.
Dr. Daniel Hodges' remarks were made at the event Legacy of the Nation at the National Heroes Park on September 16, 2025, in celebration of the country's 42nd Independence Celebration, September 19, and National Heroes Day, September 16. Though not a bread and butter topic in the public domain, the talk of secession for Nevis is slowly rekindling, fueled by the passage of the August 11 Special Sustainability Zone Authorization Bill and the heated discussion about Southeast lands in Nevis. Moreover, Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew's call for him not to be included in Nevis's land debate ruffled the feathers of some people who purported that the Prime Minister is trying to dissociate himself from the matter, though the act stands in his name.
I am simply saying that I have nothing to do with the land in Nevis. The Constitution tells me clearly, Prime Minister, the lands in Nevis are to be administered by the Nevis Island. So I keep out of that. So I hope that the discussion on Nevis and they can resolve their matter. Where I come in is that the federal government is responsible for national security, immigration, customs, citizenship, and so forth. So if Nevis were to set up something that violates any of those, then I wouldn't step in to seek to manage Nevis's land. I will step in to say, you have violated the custom laws, you have violated the immigration laws, you have violated national security laws, you have violated our border security laws, the border, not the land itself. So if the Nevis Island Administration and the Premier has a particular project, where I come in and the federal government comes in is to make sure that these laws that I just mentioned that are on the purview of the federal government are not violated. Outside of that, I will please ask the people to please keep me out of that. The Constitution tells, this is why I'm not commenting on it. Keep me out of that, because I will not be accused of trying to take over Nevis's land. Let them settle over their land matter. When that comes to me as a project, I will look at it from the perspective of the laws and what is under my purview and the federal government's purview and make decisions on those. So if you can't bring to me that this special zone is going to violate any of these, it has nothing to do with me. As a matter of fact, I'll say, well, that is what Nevis chooses to do with their land. The federal government is not in a position to stop them or encourage them or anything like that. The federal government just looks over what is under its purview and Nevis handles its resources. So that is where that is. So I would really ask people to really keep me out of that argument that is taking place at Nevis. The Constitution tells me to keep out, and I will keep.
For several years, some have agreed that greater autonomy would benefit Nevis, while others have cautioned that secession could bring significant economic and diplomatic challenges. St. Kitts and Nevis's constitution highlights that there would need to be a referendum on secession, with 62% in favor of it. The Nevis Reformation Party gathered scores of supporters in Charlestown on Friday afternoon, September 12, 2025, for a protest and rally against the government's plans to develop a special sustainability zone, SSZ, on the island. The demonstrators assembled at the DR Walwyn Plaza for a series of speeches from community leaders and activists. The event, described by organizers as peaceful, attracted individuals from various sectors of society who voiced concerns about the long-term impact of the SSC project. Dr. Kelvin Daly, a staunch NRP supporter and a community activist, immediately called for the resignation of Premier Mark Brantley and the Concerned Citizens Movement administration, accusing the party of betrayal.
Mark Brantley and CCM need to resign today. Mark Brantley and CCM need to go home today. There is no ifs, no buts, no maybes. They have betrayed the people of Nevis.
and they keep betraying the people of Nevis.
In his typical quest to educate Nevisians on matters related to the southeast coast, Dr. Daly reminded Nevisians of a timeline of events, including plans to construct a road in the southeast, which have been referred to in the ongoing Special Sustainability Zone debate. He expressed that details about the South Coast development were a secret that was meant to be deliberately kept from the public.
In 2023, he put $400,000 for consultancy to design the road. And then early in 2023, he said he changed his mind because some developers had their eye on the southeast. Let them do it because the government ain't got no money. Now you're collecting taxes from people who live in that area there for centuries and you ain't got no money. You ain't got no money to empower Nevisian landowners. And so you abandon them. You turn them loose like goat in a pasture. Turn them loose. Denying us the ability and the empowering ability to develop those land reserves. Access. But he saw fit. He saw fit to allow some libertarians to come in the ear and whisper, give me the land. Let me do it. Forget about Nevis people. Give us the power. Let us do it. And he said, yes, go ahead. Go ahead. But the whole thing was a big secret. We were not to find out. And see, we were going along our merry way, not knowing that three gentlemen from the Libertarian Society were whispering in the premier ear and whispering in the wife ear, give us the land.
A prominent Rastafarian leader, Ras Iroy Pinney, passionately condemned the project, warning that it could lead to the exploitation of land and resources at the expense of future generations.
Anything that interferes with my comfort in Nevis affects me, and I have a right to defend it. I have always stood up against, actually I have protested against every single government in St. Kitts Nevis for the rights of the people. And so today is no exception. When we look at what is happening today, what we are seeing is a large portion of land that will no longer be freely accessible to Nevisians. So I'm speaking of, where's your access road? Who's going to be displaced and replaced? These are the questions we have to ask ourselves. Now, I've been hearing some terms, and I heard the country Belgium being mentioned. And if those of us who know history and about Leopold and the Congo, what the Belgium would have done to us, there's no way we should be welcoming anybody from Belgium here in Nevis. And I say that with no water in my mouth. The diamond mines in the Congo ruled by them, and we see what they do to black people. So we cannot afford for our land to become gated communities where I cannot go there.
The Rastafarian leader argued that a development project of this magnitude must involve open dialogue, suggesting that the resources are sacred and decisions about them must involve the voices of divisions.
What is even more troubling to me though, and I see it's a trend where politicians feel like they have the right to just go into the house, make up a bill, pass a bill, and then all of us it becomes law and people have to abide by it. That cannot be right. That can never be right. Anything that is going to affect you at that degree, it must be brought to the public for consultation. Where is the voice of the people? That is one of my main concerns, because if there was some kind of consultation, there's no way we would have had so many confusion today. Because the hard questions would have been asked and hard answers would have had to be given. My people, let us not sit back. Because if we sit back, we'll be doing an injustice to our children.
Ms. Carlin Lawrence also took to the stage, expressing concerns about the heated exchange she had with Premier Brantley about the Southeast Coast lands in a July 2025 town hall meeting. In her presentation, she explained that it was only a matter of time for the truth to be revealed.
We have to fight for our sovereignty. We have to fight for our island. On July 10th at the town hall, I came out as a citizen to ask my questions, since I'm from the fishing village of Hanley's Road, and I'm also a recreational line fisher myself. I had to ask about the enclave, and I figured the best person to ask would be the Premier himself. Instead of answering, he played the usual game on words, avoiding the answer. To this day, he has not given an answer. I never imagined that my exchange with him would have gone viral. But I give God the glory because he's the master orchestrator. He knows how to cause the domino effect and expose the hidden plots. Dr. Daly broke the story, but it was moving slowly. Then here comes the town hall, and it blew the top off. You know why it blew the top off? Because the Premier was lying. In that moment, he forgot. He forgot how many persons they had contacted to sell their lands. I can't tell you the countless number of persons who have met me since that day, and they're whispering to me, Eli, you know, Eli, because he called me cousin, he called me father, he called me uncle, Eli. So many persons have met me and said that to me. And he didn't realize that he himself was telling on himself.
The opposition candidate Rohan Isles made a clarion call for the people of Nevis to stand united and apply pressure upon the Nevis Island administration.
We cannot rest while some people are pocketing millions and telling you, get rid of it, it's 100 years, it's there, you're not doing anything with it. You cannot be quiet when your children's future is blinking dark in front of your eyes because one man's greed is calling him to separate our people. What are we waiting for? In a space we call Queen City, this paradise will surely turn to hell if we do not continue to apply unseasoned pressure on this government to take back the food and give us back the place we love.
The protest concluded peacefully, with NRP leader Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge encouraging the people to maintain pressure on the government. She said the special sustainability zone legislation is an injustice for Nevis and it is not wanted.
And so I say to you this afternoon, remember, we have been done an injustice and we cannot sit back and allow the Premier to get away with this. We must stand up and we must fight. It is not about the sale of lands, as he would want people to believe. The issue with the sale of lands has to do with the way that he and his wife schemed. She sold the lands for all these years. People of Nevis had no clue about the SSD legislation, about an enclave. No clue. And all of a sudden, the same people that the wife is working for are the same people who have now put a proposal before the Premier. And the proposal before the Premier is to be reviewed by the Premier and the Premier only, and then passed on to the Prime Minister for signature. We do not want the SSD legislation in Nevis. We must fight against the SSD legislation and any development that comes under the SSD legislation.
Several calls have been made for the Nevis Island administration to end the secrecy and lack of accountability, with some people arguing that without public involvement, the special sustainability zone risks becoming a divisive issue that undermines trust between citizens and the government.
Special sustainability zones are legally designated areas designed to attract foreign investment for economic diversification and job creation, with strict stipulations that adhere to a certain level of environmental and social responsibility. As these zones require foreign investment to flourish, how do exogenous shocks impact these zones? During a recent episode of Brown Business, the Premier of Nevis, the Honourable Mark Brantley, addressed some other concerns related to the special sustainability zones. A significant part of sustainability for St. Kitts and Nevis and the Caribbean region is mitigating the continued negative impacts of climate change, including rising sea levels, warmer oceans, longer and more severe droughts, and stronger hurricanes. Premier Brantley tackled how he envisions ensuring resilient infrastructure capable of withstanding Category 5 hurricanes.
So it's always man against nature, and we understand that man against nature nature usually wins. That's
Absolutely.
just a reality. But I think that, again, going back to the legislative framework, it has been quite ingenious because it has built into the legislative framework those types of issues of
Brilliant.
sustainability. So, for example, developers have to demonstrate that they're building to a particular level, building that could withstand up to Cat 5 hurricanes. They must demonstrate that they're building in resilience in terms of the development. So the road infrastructure, the power infrastructure, they have to demonstrate that they're building in resilience in terms of water. How are they going to generate water? How are they going to generate electricity? Up to 70% has to be renewable. These are the types of things that we have done. Now, can I sit here and tell you that if a Cat 5 storm, or some now are saying that Cat 5 isn't even an appropriate measure because some storms are even more violent than a Cat 5, if that were to come through with a direct hit, that I could guarantee that our better building codes and our efforts would ensure that we're okay? Probably not. Then that's why I say sometimes during that type of season, all we can do is pray, frankly, and ask God to just ensure that this year we don't get hit. Thankfully, we have not had a direct hit in St. Kitts and Nevis in the past decade. But the truth is that this is a risk that we run. And it is not the only risk, might I add, because you have the risk of drought, you have the risk of torrential rainfall, patterns of rains are changing. You know, you have the risk of sargassum that I spoke of earlier. And so, and even in terms of our food security, in terms of how we build out our societies to ensure sustainability and survivability, that all of that comes into play. So I can't, and as a leader, it would be foolhardy of me to guarantee, but what I can say is that we've built into the legislative framework that whatever is constructed has to be constructed at a level that allows at least a fighting chance if these types of storms were to come.
The other issue is geopolitics, which can influence where private and public foreign investments flow. With the U.S. pulling back on its climate commitments and global capital being fickle, how will geopolitical changes affect the feasibility of the zone? The Premier explained that based on how the policy is built, he does not foresee any negative impact on foreign direct investment.
I don't think that the zone, the way we've conceptualized it, really and truly, what we're looking for are investors with the capacity to deliver on such a zone. I don't think that there is any significant impact by U.S. policy, which has been demonstrated, may change again in another 3.5 years. We don't know where U.S. policy is going from day to day. It changes. And that is, of course, every country orders their affairs as they see fit. That is their sovereign right. We are not seeking to create any structures here that are dependent on the U.S. or U.S. policy, or frankly, dependent on the political environment. We are trying, and that is part of my own conversation with our people, that one of the things we are seeking to do with these zones and other efforts that we're making, for example, our geothermal exploration, is really to insulate ourselves from a lot of these exogenous shocks over which we have no control. You know, when we sat and we looked at the news and we saw that Israel had attacked Iran, and thereafter the United States decided to attack Iran, I will tell you, despite not despite, but in addition to the concerns about the world and safety and security in our world, my immediate concern as a leader of a small island was the cost of fuel. Iran is a major producer of oil. We have war in Ukraine involving Russia, another major producer of oil. We have Venezuela, another major producer of oil, having difficulties there with their administration and with concerns being expressed by certain Western powers. When we look at all of that, that translates in a very real way to the single mother in a village here in Nevis having to pay more for electricity. And if she has to pay more for electricity, it means that she pays more in the supermarket, she pays more for bread from the bakery. It is more expensive for her to send her children to school. So these global events, I think sometimes they're viewed in that macro sense. I try to break them down and say, what is their impact at the micro level on our people? And therefore, it behooves us who are in leadership positions to do what we can to insulate ourselves from those things. Nobody's going to ask a little country like St. Kitts and Nevis? What do you think about war in Ukraine or war in Gaza? Our voice, while it's an important voice, we understand it's only through the collective capacity of multilateralism that we even have a voice.
Yeah.
And so we don't have the power, we don't have the might. And so for us who are minnows in a world of sharks, we have to determine how do we protect ourselves. And one of the best ways, I think, is for us to develop policies which are clever, which are agile, which allowed us, one of the things that small islands, small countries, small animals have usually is speed. You can adjust quickly, you can develop quickly, you can create new ideas.
There is also concern over how Nevis will keep the free zone attractive for investors while avoiding overdependence on outside aid or political structures. Brantley shared that he foresees the success of the Special Sustainability Zone being akin to that of its predecessor, the Citizenship by Investment program.
You mentioned citizenship by investment. I have said to many of my friends around the world, the Citizenship by Investment program was created in St. Kitts and Nevis. Way back in 1984, we gave the world the idea of leveraging citizenship for investment. Other countries, large and small, have followed suit and have done a variation of it, but the idea emanated from us. And this is, I think, the same with the sustainable zone idea that we have created. And I expect that others in the Caribbean will follow suit. So currently what we need is the right developer, the developer who is aligned with us in terms of what we're seeking to achieve, and the developer who has the capacity in terms of financial capacity to develop on this project. That's what we're seeking to do. I mentioned geothermal, and just if I can briefly say that we are well advanced now. We are at the stage where we're reviewing bids on the production well drilling. And I'm very excited about that because the science tells us that we have far more power than we can consume. And so the science is telling us that under Nevis, we have up to 1,000 megawatts of geothermal power. To put that in context for you and your listeners, Nevis and St. Kitts together only consume about 50 megawatts at peak. So we're talking about a potential of hundreds of megawatts of available energy for other purposes, whether that's to export to neighboring islands or it's power to X, to power up industries that require cheap renewable energy. So what does that do, however? It means that as I'm watching global news of what's going on in the rest of the world, that single mother that I spoke of can be a bit more comfortable in her home, knowing that her price of fuel is not going to depend on who's at war and who's having difficulties with their neighbor. That peace of mind is also, in my humble opinion, part of the sustainability puzzle. Allowing our people to understand that decisions are being made at the governmental level, which are designed to ensure the longevity of our people, ensure the survivability of our people, because a lot of what we experience is frankly existential. A lot of the threats that we see, climate change being one of them, is existential. Other countries can maybe, if California were to have a problem, people can move to Texas, they can move to New York. There's no place in Nevis for us to move to. This is all we have. And it therefore, with a certain level of urgency, we have to address and confront these types of issues and mainstream sustainability throughout all that we do.
Premier of Nevis, the Honourable Mark Brantley. You are listening to the Week in Review here on WINN FM 98.9. Thank you for listening and have a productive week.